All right. Today is July 14th, 2026, and this is my session. You can see pretty clear P&L here. Ended at the peak of 552 before commissions, 20 trades, 10 wins, 10 losses, so 50% win rate. My average win was 15 ticks, and my average loss was 8.3 ticks, so almost double um, in regards to risk to reward, which I really like. I think that's an awesome statistic. If I have a 50% win rate but a 2-to-1 risk to reward ratio, that is an incredible stat average. But it's an outlier. I'll be honest with you. My overall stats are not this impressive. Today was um, it wasn't an easy day by any means. The price action was actually pretty difficult to read at times. I just think it complemented my system very well, and we'll see how in the review. Um, so I've already got my trades uploaded here. Let's start tagging them. Trade number 1 is a loss, and it is a reversal long. So my entry is probably somewhere around here, around 70. And right off the bat, I don't like this trade. I really don't think this has anything working for it. We're really quick off the open, 932. I told myself yesterday in my review that I wouldn't take trades before 940. And I think what I've done is I've stupidly excused myself for doing that by trading 2-lot micros, because I think, oh, the risk is so small, I can afford to gamble before or immediately after the open. And I mean, the risk is so small, but I mean, it's still $30. I mean, that's almost that's like 5% of my daily P&L right there. Um, and then I go ahead and I do the same thing a couple minutes later. So let's just tag this. I'm gonna red star this. I should not be trading this so far off the open. Um, no slip range. I'm confused, and that's it. Red star reversal. Trade number 2, I assume, is going to be a try 2 of the same setup. I'm not exactly sure why I don't have volume, but that's okay. As long as my mic is working. Um, so yeah, pretty similar. I'm waiting for this slip range to break to the upside, and I keep attempting it. And it's not working very well. Now, unfortunately, I end up nailing the trade in the next in the next trade. So trade number 3 is a $200 win, and it's my biggest win of the day, and it's within the first 10 minutes of the session. Barely. But I don't want this to reinforce bad mindset. I don't want this to be an excuse to take a lot of trades before the first 10 minutes, because I mean, $200 minus the 65 that I already lost is actually only 125. Right? Is my yeah, 120, sorry, 135, which is not my biggest trade of the session. So just a little bit of context. I got to keep these things in perspective, that while this was a winning trade, it's not necessarily something I want to replicate. Um, However, just from a purely objective point of view, um, there is a pretty significant change in character down here. We traded lower off the open on some pretty heavy red candles. We traded down here in this range, and like Anna Cooling says in her book, Volume Price Analysis, the boat takes time to turn around. A V flush, a straight up and down move, is so rare. Those do not happen very often. what happens more often on reversals is we put in a range and we start to slowly curve in the other direction. And my confirmation of that happening is this heat map. We're slowly starting to curve upwards. And my hypothesis is that once we curve upwards, we put in some higher lows, some higher highs, we break this resistance here at 69, that we could take back this reclaim above us. And that is exactly what happens. We get a really nice move to the upside. So I don't hate this setup. I don't even hate the fact that I took this trade in the first 10 minutes. However, I can't just be throwing shit at the wall hoping that it sticks in the first 10 minutes. I think these first two losses are totally unacceptable. And because of that, I'm only going to give this trade a yellow star. While technically a good setup, I was just way too aggressive in the execution by taking two losses beforehand. I'm trading too soon off the open. My first trade was only 2 minutes after the open. There's no way I have a solid read 2 minutes after the open. It's just impossible. Market read in between. Entry was actually pretty good on here. I think my exit was also good. Try 3. Factors of support. I had a reclaim. I had balance above. Did I? Yeah, I had balance above. We had a compression. Did we have high nodes at the time of entry? I don't know if we did. Yeah, we did have high nodes at the time of entry. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this tag. I'm going to change this to change in character. And I'm going to throw this on because I do think this is a really important tag to have, because that was a big factor in me taking this trade. There was a big change in character there. So I'm going to throw that tag on there, throw multiple factors of support, which again, while I really like this setup from a technical perspective, I don't like that I took those two losses beforehand. Worse yet, I sized up on this trade and I want to make sure that I did it appropriately. So let's look at trade data. Okay, leg 1 was a 2 lot at 935. Leg 2 was a 2 lot at 936. So I did have about a whole 60 seconds before I decided to add to this trade, which is a good thing. I want there to be development of the trade. I want there to be multiple supporting factors before I go ahead and put more size on a trade. And it looks like I did that. So to give myself a little bit of credit. Let's go ahead and screenshot this one just because I do think it is an important lesson. All right, I'm going to screenshot this. I'm just going to be right back super quick. All right, I'm back. So let's go ahead and screenshot this. Oh, it would help if I had my screenshotting software open. All right, so changing character. You get lower lows, lower lows, lower highs, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs. These are all so downtrending on red heat map. And then we put in this range here. Ranging neutral heat map. Change in character, question mark. And then break of range on green heat map. And then we get higher highs, higher lows, and we get a nice little trend out of it. Same thing can be seen here. Boom, boom, boom. So down move, range, up move. And on its own, I don't think there's much edge in taking a setup like that. Like if you get a down move and it starts ranging, like what is there really to stop it from just being a consolidation before a continuation? My answer to that is also found in the fact that we put in a really nice open interest profile. Open interest buying held. So there was this really nice profile that had to develop down there, and we were holding it. What's important is that we weren't making lower lows. When I took those first two entries and I was like being an idiot, we were still making lower lows and lower highs. On the second entry, like we were starting to change the pattern. We were starting to make higher lows, higher highs. We broke the top of this range. We had a bunch of bids, but down here that were getting supported. Like that was a good trade. Um, but those first two trades on the way down just were not of good quality. So roughly, I'm not sure exactly where my entry and exit were, but it was probably somewhere like this. I think I took it off at the bottom of the opening range. My entry, my exit. Something like that. Good enough. All right, let's paste this screenshot in there, paste, upload. It's already tagged, so we can jump to the next trade. Another reversal, but this time to the short side. So I think that this move is exhausted. The last reversal trade worked. I think there might be a reversal to the downside. And there technically is, but first we take out those new highs. So I get stopped out on that move. This move would have been better, but again, it wouldn't have been nearly as many points as that first move up. So just because one reversal works doesn't mean that all of them are going to work. Sometimes you have a session where you just get one, and that's it. So this was a reversal trade. Pretty aggressive. No slip range. Market read in between. I'm going to call this a red star, honestly. I don't like it either. Next trade. Reversal long. I try to catch this really deep pullback for the reversal up. And in all fairness, it would have worked. I think my entry's somewhere around here, like 78.50. And I put the stop right below the lows, but the lows get flushed. So I take the hit right there, and then it goes. So if anything, I just need to remember to keep my stop a little loose on these reversal trades, because this one actually would have worked, and it's kind of a decent setup. I don't hate it. It was a range expansion setup. So we had a nice reclaim above us at the time of entry. We had the trend favor on the larger time frame. Did we have any high node support? Kinda. It makes that move down. There was kind of a couple high nodes down there. So yeah, I'll put that as high node support. Entry good, but hold more. I got shaken out on this one. This was a reversal trade. It was pretty conservative too. Conservative move to move, because I would have taken it off at the range highs. This wasn't going to be a huge hold for me. Slip. No, not really any slip range for this one. That was pretty clear. I might change this from trend to range favor, because it is very clearly a range here. And that'll be a yellow star. So no green star trades yet. This is trade 6. It's continuation long. Yeah, and I think that setup is pretty clean. Pretty conservative entry and exit. Not a whole lot to deduct from that. Sometimes you just got to pull the trigger on a really clear, obvious setup. It's not A plus by any means. I'm leaning into this high node right here, and it's not huge. 2, 4, 6, 70, maybe 80 lots here. So it's not massive, but it does offer a pretty nice little slip range there for me to take advantage of. So I'll tag that as slip favor, clear, conservative scalp, continuation, entry good, exit good. We had the trend favor, high node support, and that's pretty much it. I'll green star it. Next one is a reversal long, and I'm in it for 4 minutes. So we get a huge move down. I try to take the range favor long, and it works. I get a pretty nice solid move out of it. But I think I'm holding for the top of the range, and that top of the range never comes, and I get stopped out, unfortunately. So I think I left a pretty decent amount on the table, but at the same time, I do need a lot. I need to move the needle. I need a decent amount of P&L out of these trades in order for them to work. So I'm not necessarily going to say that was a bad trade. I had the range favor on this one. I had a change in character. I think I had a high node at the time of entering, did I not? I did. Yeah. And I think I was also slip favor on it. Slip favor, high node, reversal, pretty conservative, move to move, market read clear. Continuation long. is my next trade, and it's a winner. I can already see what the setup is, and I think it's pretty solid. So I'm kind of mid on this larger range. There's a range up here from 83 down to 79, and I'm kind of at the mid. However, there's a new slip range setting up um, on the upper side of it. So slip range is staircase. They like the stair step. So oftentimes what you'll see is you'll see a range above a range above a range. Um, and you'll also get ranges inside of other ranges. I think because there's a 170 lot buyer here that's supporting my entry, I'm comfortable with an entry near the mid of the range. And I take it near the top of the range, I believe. Yeah, nice little move up there. I like it. I'm going to screenshot this one real quick, just for the sake of having it. So, wider slip range. And then smaller slip range. Big old support here. And that's pretty much all I needed to juice that trade. I've also got a pretty nice trend here. Boom. Boom. Nice trend favor little trade there. I've also got a range. Let's circle the range. I am kind of mid on the larger range, but let's just assume that after testing the bottom, we're going to test the top. So I kind of have that little bit of momentum going for me. Paste that in there. Green star. High node. Range favor. Entry good, exit good. Continuation, conservative scalp, slip favor, clear. Next one is a reversal long, and it's a winner. I get 85 out of it. We come down, test the bottom of the range, it looks like. I like this high node down here. I probably take the trade somewhere around this high node in hopes that he gets defended. It looks like he does. And I think I take this trade off somewhere around 84, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe I take it around 86. I think I do. I think what happens is I take a partial up here, and then it comes down and stops me out. So if I took the whole trade off here, it would have been like $160, which I think is preferable. I think when I'm taking a move to move trade, I shouldn't be taking partials. If it's a move to move and we're at the top of a range or the bottom of a range and my target is about to hit, just take the whole trade off. Don't take a partial. Um, so I technically held too long, but my entry was good. I'm going to tag it as partial. Factor support, I had a squeeze because there was a lot of selling at the bottom of the range when I entered. I had the reclaim advantage. I had the range favor. I'll also go with changing character because the whole thesis was that there was a lot of selling, but then it eventually turned into buying. This was a reversal. It was pretty conservative, move to move, slip favor. Oh, I also had high nodes. This is going to be multiple faction support for sure. And then same thing on the next trade. I take a partial, and I should be taking it off at the top. I think this is where I get in around this high node here. Plays around with my entry, goes all the way to the top of the range. I take a partial, and then it comes back down and stops me out at break even. So, excuse me. I'm going to copy the tags from this one. Copy tags. paste tags, and this will all to be a yellow star because it was a partial. I should have taken the whole trade off at the range highs. I think when it's a move to move like that, I mean, just it's better to just take it off. Just take it off. Get the get the free money out of the range. Don't hold it forever. Holds should be for like clear, like parabolic reversals, or like if we have a range day, or sorry, a continuation trend today, and I managed to get a good pullback or something. Like those should be holds. When there's price exploration and we're trading into uncharted territory, those should be held, and I should be taking partials on the way up. But if it's a move to move trade and I'm taking the bottom of a range and targeting the top, just take it all off. There's no point in holding a partial. Trade 11 is another reversal long, and this one fails. So I try to catch the bottom of this range, and it's arguably over trading. So this could be a red star. Aggressive move to move. I think I'm confused at this point because this doesn't look the same. We're coming into the bottom of this range on a lot of selling. Like this is much stronger. This is a change in character. We're testing the bottom of this range on a lot of selling. And that's what finally makes it break. Yeah, that's it. Next trade is a continuation short. Those I've never really been too good with these. They're a lot harder to finesse. We're also kind of exhausting at this point. We made a really steep lower low, which could be capitulation because there's so much reclaim above us. I don't think that actually ends up happening. However, my entry is way too early in that regard. A more conservative entry up near 74s would have worked terrifically, I believe. Yeah, probably 3 points. But eventually we do end up trading back up. So I don't think I should be short in this area. That being said, like I can kind of see why I was attempting it. So it isn't horrible. It's pretty aggressive scalp. I do have slip favor on it. I'm in between on my market read. This was a continuation trade. Entry early, but my exit is good. Factors of support, I had the trend favor. We were clearly trending to the downside. There was some decent compression, I think, but honestly, that's not good either. There was balance favor, and that's about it. I'll keep it at that. Yellow star. Reversal long. So again, I think I'm over attacking at this point. I'm managing my risk well, so I guess I can't beat myself up too bad. Like at the end of the day, this was a positive session for me, and I'm looking at the chart right now, and I can see the setup. We traded super bright red into the low of the range. We failed to reclaim it. Now we're trading a lower low, but on much less selling. The sellers are exhausted, so it does kind of look like these are going to turn into buyers. But that's just not the case. So while it was a decent attempt and I did get a few points out of it, I didn't take the profit, and then we end up trading lower and it comes back, unfortunately. So it's actually a pretty decent attempt. I'll green star it. We had the reclaim favor, we had the balance favor, we had the V flush setup. We technically had the range favor. I'll put multiple factors of support on it. Entry was good. And I'll even say that exit was good. Well, it's always hindsight to say I should have taken the 2 points it gave me or whatever. I need big wins out of these trades. This was a reversal, pretty conservative move to move. Slip beaver. I'll put in between on market read. Next one is a continuation short, and I take a big loss on it. To my credit, we do have a pretty nice trend going on, but it's not. I don't know. It's tough because I did sit here and watch the price action all day, and there were good short setups. I just wasn't taking them, and then of course, when I finally take it, it's bad. And I think the the rule I should probably implement on these is I shouldn't sell the first pullback after a fresh low. If we make a fresh low, like either a low of day or a fresh local low like that, and we boom, we strike down that low, I shouldn't be short on the first pullback because that could be capitulation and it could rip up against me, and that's exactly what it does. It comes up and stops me out. I think this is the one though where it would have been a really good trade had I entered a little bit more conservatively. Yeah, yeah, it would have worked a lot better. But at the same time, there's no slip range up there. This was at least a good slip range. So I'm gonna red star this one. No, I'll yellow star it because I can see why I did it. I technically did have the trend favor. There was a nice high node there. Um, I think my entry was early. My exit was good enough. This was a continuation. Pretty aggressive scalp. Slip favor. Market read in between. Next trade, continuation short, and it's a big one. I do get a nice juice, or sorry, yeah, no, this is continuation short. I get a nice big juicy win out of this one. We come up and test the big fat high node from earlier in the session. We also have a much bigger pullback. It's pretty thin below us. So in my opinion, I just think this looks like a good short. Um, Not the greatest entry, but good enough. I do get near the high of that spike. I also like that this is kind of in consistency with the trend line here. Like we're trending lower on these spikes up. We're also bright green on the heat map, which could work against me. Like this could be the sign of a change in character, but there hasn't been enough time for that change in character to really cook, you know. So in my opinion, this just looks like a one-off spike to the upside. That doesn't mean it'll always win. Like there were moments like right here, for example, where I thought this trade was going to lose, but it does end up going lower. And I think I take the trade off early. I think for how long I stayed in it, I could have held this a little bit longer. So I'll take this hold more. Entry good. I had the high node. I had the trend favor. I had the balance favor. I had the reclaim advantage. Multi-factor support, continuation. Um, Pretty aggressive in my opinion. That doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. And this was move to move. I had a clear target in mind. Um, Technically slip favor. You can't really see the slip range on here, but there was a slip range up there. And I was pretty clear about my intentions at this point. Reversal long, I take a loss on it. I think this is where I keep trying to attempt this setup. Um, it does look like the trend is turning around at this point. Like it does look like we're running into a lot of buyer interest here on the open interest. We keep testing the low of this range. It's starting to slope a little bit. So it's no longer just a straight downtrend. It is like putting in a support, a base down here. We also have a big support resistance level on the delta. So this first one I think is a red star. It's a little aggressive. Aggressive hold. I'm setting up for a hold here. No slip range, and I'm kind of in between on my market read. This was a reversal. Next trade, I do manage to get a little bit out of it. So I do take a try two on essentially the same setup. And I get a little bit out of it. I make 40 bucks. So what happens is I probably take a partial at the top of the range. It comes back and stops me out. So maybe what I'll do is I'll copy my tags from earlier. Copy tags, paste tags. There was no squeeze down here, but I did have reclaim, high node, changing character, range favor, multi-factor support. Held too long, partial, conservative scalp, slip favor, clear. Yes. So yellow star that one. And then I kind of nail it. I kind of nail a really good reversal here on the next trade. We get news. Or what was the news? I think it was the Fed chairman, the new guy. I forget his name. He started speaking, and I think it was comments about inflation numbers that we got earlier in the session. And those inflation numbers, if I remember correctly, are they were very bullish for June. And that's because the Strait of Hormuz opened back up. But the problem with that is, as I'm recording this, the Strait of Hormuz is closed again. Trump put out a tweet the other day saying that he's going to close the Strait of Hormuz, charge a 20% tariff on all oil passing through the Strait of Hormuz. Which means that those positive inflation numbers that we got are essentially moot, because the only reason inflation was so positive was because the strait was open and now the strait's closed. Anyways, we get a super sharp move down off that news. I'm really proud of myself for not buying the left side of the V. That's been a huge problem for me before in the past, is I'm just always going long on sharp moves down. And I didn't do that this time. So, let's break down the entry on this one. Watch 6150 right here. Let's watch 6150. So there's a 90 lot. It touches that price again, and it turns into a 174 lot. There's going to be a lot of interest on that price in a couple minutes. So we come back and test it. I'm already pretty suspicious of 6150. I think that after a huge move down like that, we're gonna start finding some buyers down here. It's a theory, and it doesn't mean it's 100% win rate. It could be a loser, but this is like essentially an early probe. I'm probing at this trade. I also like that there's a support resistance here on the delta. We know historically that these support resistance levels do often hold. So I think I take the entry somewhere here around 62. Keep watching 6150. We test 6150 and it holds. That's kind of my confirmation. I'm like, okay, something's going on here. Something's cooking. Now it's 230 lots. Some of them do come out. There's a bit of an auction taking place here. We get a nice slip range, and 6150 is at the bottom of the slip range. I love it. I love it when there's a buyer at the bottom of the slip range. So range advantage, or sorry, reclaim advantage, V flush, huge buyer open interest, changing character because we're hot pink right now, and you can kind of see the colors are starting to change, and it's holding. My invalidation is if this 6150 buyer is underwater, like if we start trading 60s, 59s, and he's underwater and he starts coming out, I'm going to get out. But that's not happening. He's still in the money. He's holding the market up. Boom. We test him again. A 422 lot buyer comes in. I'm already in the trade at this point, so it's not like this is my entry signal, but this is huge confirmation. And then a 420 lot below him. So combined, that's like 900 lots, not almost 1,000 if you include this 139 below him. So there's 1,000 lots of buyer open interest at 6150. It's also the bottom of a slip range, and the slip range holds. At this point, I think we do make our first higher high. We've got a changing character on the medium time frame. We're now putting in a green candle, and I hold this bad boy. I even take some scalps in between. You just saw a scalp there. Fast forward, we're still getting some higher highs, some higher lows. I think I take a partial here at 69 because it's the bottom. This is a hold. Like I am holding this, but my first target is the bottom of the prior range. Um, and then I think I take the rest of it off at the top of the prior range, probably right around here. So let's screenshot that. There was a lot going on with this one. Okay, so was that? Was that 10 o'clock? During Fed speech. Inflation numbers for June were bullish. After Hormuz, but defeated Strait was closed again. 20% tariff on all oil through Strait. Eliminating any significance of positive inflation numbers. All right, so volatile lows during Fed speech. I might even move this over because I'm going to need this space for more technical analysis. So let's mark the prior range. Prior value area. Actually, let's do huge open interest buyer. 60s. Over 1,000 watts. Bid. has bright red, has hot red, stallion reaches climax, the range develops, wherein buyers start showing interest. See point number 2, and intensity of selling waivers. We print a dark green candle after consecutive hot red candles. In in all honesty, that's kind of it. This is we also have pictured support resistance on the cumulative delta. All right, let's recap. So, hot red off of news, 2 o'clock news, and it was bearish, but not incredibly bearish. It's kind of a sell the news or buy the news, sell the event, or whatever the fuck. Because a few hours prior at 8:30, inflation numbers dropped that were very bullish for the month of June. But the only reason they were bullish was because the Strait of Hormuz was opened. At the time of this trade, I think the day prior, Trump had tweeted that he was going to shut down the strait again. There was bombings in Iran or whatever. Iran is shooting at international tankers going to the strait. So the United States is closing down the strait again, and they're charging a 20% tariff on all oil that goes through the strait, meaning inflation is going to come back up, where the oil is going to go back up. Cost of goods are going to go back up. So those positive bullish inflation numbers that we had in June are completely eliminated. They're gone. That is no longer a factor. At the time of this trade, around 10:21, I believe the Fed chairman had started speaking 20 minutes prior. So this is not necessarily when he started speaking. I think he started speaking closer to like this area when we got this first initial move down. But I don't know what he said here, but he probably said something that was bad, that was bearish. We come down, we make a very capitulatory, climactic move, meaning that the price expansion is accelerating, 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 accelerating. We put down one more fresh little low, but it's not that deep. You know, the low of this candle compared to the low of this candle is only about a point or two. And then we come back up. We put in a slip range. In this slip range, we get huge open interest to the buy side. In order for me to take a trade like this, on one hand, like I do like this kind of capitulation setup from a price action perspective, but I need there to be some sort of volume event. I need volume to confirm it. I need there to be an order flow event, some significant buyer or even a significant seller that gets squeezed. I just need to see something down here that entices me, because if we put in a huge selling, we put in a slip range, and then just more sellers steady selling comes in and we puke lower. I mean, that's a continuation trade. But the reason I liked this as a reversal trade was because we tested the lows, we came up, put in a slip range, and then a huge buyer presented themselves. Um, so I go long, right roughly where that buyer is. And then we get a change in character. So a couple minutes after I enter the trade, we put in a green candle. We put in our first green candle on the heat map. This heat map is designed to monitor all 500 stocks in the S&P, and it spits out a bias depending on a few things, depending on trend, depending on whether that stock is in a range, and depending on the bid offer volume of that specific stock. And then it accounts for it according to weight, the weight of that stock in the index. So when we're down here, all the stocks are selling on really heavy sell volume. When we're up here, all the stocks are buying on really heavy buy volume. And you can kind of see the point where that transitioned, where that changed. And I'm already long before that. And then the one thing I am missing is my entry and exits. So, I think my entry was kind of on the mid of this range somewhere. My first exit was at the low of the prior range, and then my last exit was at the top. So my entry, first exit, second exit. That's it. Paste, upload. Solid trade. So I'm going to green star this. I'm going to put A plus on it. Reversal, partial. Pretty conservative, honestly. Pretty conservative hold. I did have slip favor at the time of entering. It was clear. Entry good, exit good. Kind of perfect in that regard. I don't know why my phone just died. That's weird. Reclaim favor, balance favor, prior value area. I don't know. We technically had a support resistance area. I'm tempted to put V flush, but just for the sake of, I guess it was also a V flush. I didn't have range or trend because this was kind of catching a knife. Changing character, multi-factor support, almost every single factor support, which puts a smile on my face, man, because that is A plus. Like, for me to have that many factors of support on a single trade is kind of nuts, and gets me all giddy. It gets me excited. It makes me happy that I can identify A plus 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 trades like this, because that is an insane trade. I'll even go as far as to save this image. Trading playbook. Too long. What an incredible trade. And then I take 2 scalps while I'm in this trade. So while I'm in this long on micros, I'm also scalping around it. This is a good one. Let's screenshot it. Huge open interest buyer. We're also probably V flushing. I suspect we are range stacking upwards. Paste. All right. Conservative scalp, slip beaver clear, continuation, entry good, exit good. We had reclaim, balance, high node, B flush, multiple factor support. And then I dare say copy tags and paste them into this one and also green star because I can already tell that this one's going to be good. Yep, I like these trades a lot. These are good trades. So if we technically combine the P&L of these 3 trades, because they're based on the same bias and the same narrative, it's 170, 30, 45, 245 plus 75 is 325. So 325, which is a huge trade if you combine the P&L of these last 3. Which just goes to show the power of narrative. I mean, like that is where you get the juiciest trades. So, on one hand, I did make a lot of mistakes early in the session. Trading this aggressively off the open, even with 2 lot micros, is just unwarranted. There were a couple other mistakes later in the day I made with regard to catching a knife or taking these short continuation trades that didn't really work out too well. But I managed my risk. I mean, my average loss, my average loss was half the size of my average win. So I can make mistakes. Like I'm pretty happy with this. Like if I'm making these mistakes, like that's fine. I can afford to make these mistakes as long as my risk is managed, as long as my risk is small. And my reward for the first time in my career, my trading career, my reward is bigger than my risk. And that is a trend I really hope to continue. Um, for the sake of review, this is what my P&L would have looked like without any mistakes today. Um, Up 720 on the day. So still some good losses. Like not every loss is bad. Some trades are worth taking. Some risk is warranted on a lot of these. And honestly, my stats don't change that much. If I didn't make any mistakes today, 66% win rate, my risk reward is still it's more than 2 to 1. So in a perfect world, that's where I would like my trading to be. But even on its face, I mean, super good trading today. Let's filter for continuations only. Continuations only would have been up 200, and then reversals only up 340. So it was definitely a reversal day, but they both worked. It's rare when I get a session where both strategies work, but it's nice. It feels good. The last 2 days have been like that, where I've been able to get good reversals and good continuations. So let's hope that continues. Um, Things to improve on. Just do a better job of watching for narrative. I mean, once I find that narrative and I have a good idea of what direction price is going to trade, like the rest is autopilot. I can just the rest is so easy. Executing and getting those trades on is so easy once I have that narrative. If I'm guessing and I don't have a narrative and I'm just trading these little micro movements and I don't really know which side's gonna win, like that's when I start running into trouble. That's when I start tilting. That's when I start putting on bad trades. But when I have that bias and when I think like, oh, there's a V flush here, or oh, it's range expanding, or oh, it's breaking out here, like that's when I can really get good scalps. I can get those good reversal trades. I can get that good slip favor entry. Um, and that's when the trades really work. I don't think I've ever been more proud of a trade than I am with these last three. Like the narrative read here was just superb. It was perfect. It was perfect. Um, so I just need to, and I'll even put A plus on these as well. Um, I just need to emulate that, get a good narrative. If you don't have a narrative, there shouldn't be any reason to trade, unless there's a really good small time frame setup or something like that. It's just not worth guessing. I need to be using this monitor, this narrative, a wider price action, higher time frame narrative. I can't just be leaning on the DOM all the time. Because as fun as it is clicking buttons on the DOM and watching the colors change and watching the numbers go up and down, like this higher time frame is where the real money is to be made. And even in the future, if I'm gonna become a great trader someday, this is the tool. This is the monitor that I need to look at, not the DOM. The DOM is good. It helps. It complements what I'm doing, but this is the edge. This is where I need to be focusing. So that's all for me today. I'm going to try to replicate these results in the next session and the session after that. Um, and yeah, I'm going to go ahead and cut it there.